This is the Illuminate podcast, and I am your host, Rebecca Boatman. I am fascinated with human relationships, from going on first dates to understanding attachment styles and how our personal spiritual mission plays a big role in all of it. I created this podcast to invite you into conversations with inspiring leaders and I, as we explore different topics surrounding dating, relationships, money, and spirituality. Before we start, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a thing. And my one ask, and a great way that you can contribute to the podcast, is to leave a 5-star review. And now let's jump in. Okay, sugar poopsies, here is the episode you have all been asking me for. You want to know my personal story, which is just freaking awesome. And I don't talk about it a lot. And there's so much to share. So I will share part of it inside of this episode. And if you have specific questions or if you want to know more, send me a DM and then I can do follow-up episodes answering questions from your guys' DMs, which will be fun. So first off, how did I get into this work? How did I become the woman who supports thousands of people in dating and relationships? Well, y'all, I was freaking terrible. I was the worst. This was the weakest point of my life. There was a time when I did not know how to communicate, how to express when my feelings were hurt, how to have a healthy relationship, how to have healthy friendships. I was terrible. I had no skills, no tools. And when I was hurt or when something bothered me, what did I do? I burned bridges left and right. If something didn't go my way, I would fly unconscious off the handle and I would burn bridges around me. And that was really hard because that just leaves you confused, lonely, and isolated. And it's hard in romantic life. It's hard in friendship. When I was 16, I had these two best friends. And one day I was sitting in class and they brought me one of the most beautiful gifts I've ever received to this day. They brought me this huge picture frame full of pictures of us three and full of like a poem that had a poem that they wrote inside of it. And it was so beautiful, along with a cake and balloons when I was sitting in Japanese class. And fast forward, something happened where I got upset at them. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember I felt feelings of deep hurt and deep betrayal. And I'm not saying that they betrayed me, but that was what was a feeling. Like, I don't remember them betraying me or really what happened. It's still fuzzy, but I just remember feeling deeply hurt. And instead of having the tools to express what was going on for me, what did I do? I reacted. I took that picture frame that they got me with the poem and everything that they handmade, and I drove to Alabama Hill, which is this huge hill in Bellingham where I'm from, and I just chucked it off the bridge into the road, thinking that it would make me feel better, right? It's like, I feel so hurt, so how do I alleviate this pain? Well, let me just toss something that's so meaningful, that's so beautiful, and do it out of rage, basically as a F you, and I never want to see or talk to you ever again. This is one example of many things that I did when I was hurt or when I was afraid or when I felt pain. I would do something that would burn a bridge in hopes of, that is a strategy to attempt to feel better. Now, does it get the result that we want? No. This was all very unconscious, right? I can stand here now and I can look and I can reflect and have a deeper understanding of what was going on in my system. I had no clue how these actions were impacting the people I was also friends with, the people I was also in relationship with. Because when we're unconscious, we're feeling hurt, we're not aware usually of our worth. Therefore, we're not aware of our worth to others. So we don't really see the impact that we're having on the people who we love around us. And another example that I'll share with you, a personal story, is when I had a really close best friend, guy friend, and he started dating my close best friend girlfriend. And what happens when we date? We go into the love vortex, right? We go into the love bubble. It's like we're just with our person all the time. And that's very natural in the beginning of dating. Now, when this was happening, what was going on for me? I had a call with a coach and I was expressing to her, I said, I just feel I feel so abandoned by them. I feel so left out. I feel so hurt. And I'm just really sad about it because they were both individually close with me. And I feel like I lost the two people who I'm closest with. And this coach said, okay, you're going to go express to them how you feel. I said, no freaking way. Like, there's no way I'm doing that. There's no way that I would have rather licked a cow's butthole or done anything but gone and expressed my feelings, because to me at the time it wasn't safe. Don't show when you're hurt. So she's like, no, you're going to do it, right? She's standing for me to move through that fear. And so I did it, right? I went and did it. And I remember how much courage that took at the time. It was so hard. It was so challenging. And as I say it now, I'm like, wow, it sounds so simple. It wasn't only expressing my sadness or how I was feeling or that I was feeling hurt that was hard. It was also the emoting, the being seen and being sad because usually I'd always hide it by just crying in the shower or in the closet where no one could see me. And so being witnessed by people that I love seeing me in that state was deeply uncomfortable. And it was so uncomfortable because it was new territory, and I didn't do that for a very long time because of deeper subconscious beliefs that I had connected to sadness, connected to pain, connected to the humanness. And it's in doing the powerful work that I learned from working with a relationship coach for 3 years. Her name's Gladys Diaz. She's amazing. She's been doing this work for 30 years. And it was in working with her and also other trainings that I've gone through that helped me to see these subconscious beliefs that then drove the behaviors and the way that I acted throughout my life, right? So going back to that moment when I opened up in front of these people, these two friends, it was super uncomfortable. It was so blah. Like, it was so, like, I remember wanting to throw up. But what's so crazy, you guys, is now it would be 10,000 times easier for me. And I'm not saying that there wouldn't be a level of discomfort. I think there's always a level of vulnerability when we express tender parts of ourselves, but it would be way, way easier than it was for me in the past because I've practiced it, because now I have the skills, because now I have the tools, and I've done it enough that I know the benefits that come with intimacy, that come with rawness, that come with authenticity. When you know the benefits, it makes it a lot easier to continue to embody and practice those tools that support healthy relationships. Something important for me to address is that in that past experience with those two friends who started dating and I had all this pain come up, the pain goes beyond what was happening in front of me. By me not seeing them and not hearing from them, it was triggering this core wound of abandonment. And it's really powerful and important to have the skills to discern between the past and between the present, because the reality is they were not abandoning me as friends. Yet I wasn't seeing that in the moment. I mean, I knew they were still there for me, but I wasn't seeing that pain was actually coming from a much deeper core childhood wound. And when we have the skill set to then discern between what is happening in the present moment versus what happened in the past and what is going on in my body, am I projecting from a past program? And or is there something that's happening right now that is going against my core values, going against a boundary? And how do I then navigate and move forward in an empowered way? And so a great way to discern is if something minor happens and there is a reaction in your body that feels like irrational, almost like it feels like, oh wow, like I'm really responding. Like there's a huge internal response to this. When I look at it, I'm like, man, it feels a little irrational, the level of sadness or the level of anger that's coming up to something that actually looks simple or actually shouldn't be a big deal. But that's usually where we go to like, why am I reacting like this? Because we don't need to shit on how we're feeling, right? We don't need to shit on ourselves. So that's usually an indicator of, oh, there's some energetic here in my field or in my system that is wanting to be disturbed and released and renewed and to be liberated out of my system. And so if you're going through life and something happens in dating and you sense and you feel like, wow, my reaction is so big, like I feel like I'm overreacting, then you want to look and say, okay, where is this coming from? What is causing me to feel this way? What is causing me to think this way about these people? What is going on inside my psyche? And to start to peel those layers back, and we call it inside our membership the treasure tunnel, right? You can't fully see, and you're inside of this tunnel, and there's all of these treasures. So going back to that scenario with these two friends, they were actually presenting a beautiful opportunity for me to illuminate this fear of abandonment in me and to tend to those parts of myself. And what's really valuable about this skill set in relationship is that your amazing partner who you're either with now or you are attracting into your life, if that's what you desire, is going to illuminate certain parts of your own attachment styles and your own ways of being and operating. Meaning just by them showing up and being in their own world, their own personality, there's certain things that are going to present themselves. And when we have the skill set to say, if there's a moment of being triggered or if there's a core wound coming up, when we have the skill set to communicate or to, number one, be aware of what's going on in our system, and then also to communicate so that you can be met inside those tender spaces with love, with care, with adoration. And that allows for healthy, expansive partnerships. It's when we aren't aware of what's really going on. It's when we don't know how to effectively communicate that there is a ton of unresolved conflict in each individual's life, inside of the relationship, because either one party or both parties aren't getting to the root of what's going on. They're not acknowledging the deeper thing, and they don't have the tools to express it effectively in a way that isn't going to trigger their partner's defenses to come up. Most people who don't have these tools, they're desiring to unlock and move beyond this part of themselves, right? Say it is the fear of abandonment or jealousy or anything, but they're going about it in such a way that's perpetuating the fear and the what we like to call them as well in the membership is the energy clog, because they're just clogs and they're not indefinite. And think of a clog as in a kink in a hose, right? You want to unkink the hose and then the energy starts to flow. So when people are finding themselves in these constant battles or these arguments and things aren't changing or shifting, what's the opportunity? Well, become aware of the deeper thing within you and your partner or the person within themselves, and then know how to communicate it with your languaging and with your words and with your heart in such a way that the other person is actually able to receive what you're saying. Because when someone is reacting and they begin to speak from this place of you this, you that, the other person's defenses are naturally going to go up. They're naturally going to go up. So then the other person isn't winning. You're not winning, right? No one's getting anywhere. And what I'm sharing right here was the majority of my life and my relationships prior to me going on this personal journey of learning all of these powerful tools, like a treasure hunt of, how do I have healthy relationships? What is that like? And I saw them all around me, yet I didn't know how, but I knew if I learned how that I could then make it happen. And because I did, I spent probably anywhere from $50,000 to $60,000 within that span of the 3 years with working with Gladys and doing other leadership programs, books, and just studying and learning everything that I learn now. And I'm continuing to learn, right, and share things with you guys. It then transformed my life. It completely changed the game for me in such a way that I realized I have to give this back to people. I have to support. Have to, and I cannot wait to, because it made such a difference for me to have all the tools that I have in my toolbox that we also offer in the membership. It made such a difference for me that I wanted everyone to be able to have access to these tools, because I also understood the pain and the loneliness of not having these tools. And I always say, I feel like we should learn this stuff in elementary school. I feel like there should be an emotional intelligence or a communications class that we all go through so we have these skills. Some people have, psychologists as parents, and they learn all these different techniques that are super beneficial, and some people don't. With my work and the work that I do, it's because I want you, the listener, to know how to have a strong relationship with yourself, a strong relationship with others, to have the empowering tools that allow for you to thrive and flourish inside of relationship versus feeling lonely or isolated and not knowing how to navigate when things present themselves. When I share with my partner, this is the story that I'm making up. Now, in a healthy partnership, your person, right, your partner, listens and tends to what is happening, like meaning they're being attentive and loving, and they're not accommodating, meaning they're not changing their life or their, soul expression to then accommodate for my wound or for my pain that's presenting itself. Because if they self-neglect, they're divorcing for me to avoid that pain, they're divorcing an aspect of themselves, which then creates a very unhealthy codependent partnership. And now, this doesn't mean that we don't compromise in certain ways in relationships. Say, for example, if my partner were to be driving on the street like a maniac and I'm like, hey, this is really increasing my cortisol, this is stressing me out. I'm not saying that he's like, oh, well, whatever, I'm not accommodating, and he keeps stepping on the gas, right? He could say, okay, honey, I get it. So that's also for each person to take an inventory, an honest inventory, and say, okay, can I change this behavior here? Would it be not self-neglecting and still honoring of myself and my partner to shift in this way? It's a case-by-case basis, right? As I share this powerful key that I'm giving you, I don't want to say that it's black and white, because it's not. And what everyone gets to be mindful of is that they're not consistently accommodating for their partner's wounds, because then you're in a very unhealthy codependent partnership, and neither party is presented with the opportunity to grow. Oh my gosh, there's so much more I could give you guys. Like boundaries, that was a big one for me. I could do a whole other episode on that. So I hope that this one inspired something in you. If so, please send me a DM sharing what unlocked inside of you from this episode. And if there's a specific topic that you would like me to expand on, you can share that as well. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and you can find a ton more free tips on my Instagram under Rebecca Boatman. If you are curious about my online membership and community, you can click the link that is in the description and see the page that explains everything you get to support you on your journey to attracting and building a healthy relationship. And I hope to see you inside.